Hey everyone, JonesForShort here, and welcome back. Today, I kind of want to talk about just sort of my thoughts with regards to my transition process, or my progress, my transition progress so far. Because as of recording this, we've been on hormones for 9 months, 9 full months, and yeah, the what we've seen so far has been absolutely just phenomenal. It's amazing. Um, yes, you can absolutely look up other people's body change timelines, breast growth timelines, and kind of get a sense of maybe where you should be. Because I will admit that back when I first started, I did look up, I did find a couple of people. One person did um, showed their breast growth over the months, and another person did their body. Just to kind of get, and I picked people who had the same sort of measurements as me. So people who were about 6 feet tall, people who also had a 36-inch chest measurement. I'm not 35, but close enough. But people kind of close to my measurements. It's just kind of get a sense of okay, where am I right now? As far as the breasts go, for the first few months, I was actually kind of on track with that person's. Um, I hit a full A when they did, um, and at about nowish is kind of when they had close to a full B. Um, Now, me, however, that's not the case. Our breasts are like an A&a-half, if you do half sizes. Um, yeah, right between A and B. So, not having my own breasts follow that person's timeline may feel disappointing to some, but what you have to consider is that everyone's body is different. No one, you can look at someone else's progress, but you should never expect that to happen to you. Because everyone's body is different, everyone's genetics is different, everyone's going to take the hormones differently. There's just you never really know what sort of factors are going to come into play, what sort of things are gonna affect your own changes. So for trans women, for male to female transitioning, as far as breast growth goes, one thing that you can do is look at the women in your family, and their and that should roughly give you a sense of where you may end up. Now, my mom and the women on her side of the family are a little more short and squat, and I take more after my dad, and the women on his side of the family are all kind of skinny skeletons. So, I mean, appearance wise, I take after my dad a little more, so I think genetically I should look at his side of the family more. Um, but I will admit that looking at the women in his side of the family, they are all like very scrawny skeletons, flat chested. It's not to it's say that's bad or anything, but it's just for what I wanted. The body that I grew used to seeing with my breast forms and my hip pads over the years, it's I kind of want something more like that. But I didn't know what was going to happen with my body. And so looking at the woman on my dad's side of the family, I was kind of disappointed, thinking that that's probably what's going to happen. I'm already tall and skinny, nothing's really going to happen to my body as far as my body goes. And breast growth might just not happen at all. But then we shot up to an A&a-half, and that was actually kind of awesome. I was oh no, I guess we're actually gonna have a fuller figure. Awesome. But back to my original point, you don't really know what you're gonna expect as far as your own changes. I shot up to an A&a-half, and I shot up to an A, and then things kind of slowed down, and we got a half cup size after another month or two, and then the past couple of months. Things have really stagnated. I haven't noticed any changes whatsoever, which kind of goes to show that you shouldn't expect someone else's timeline to necessarily reflect what you should expect. It can give you an idea, but don't get too terribly disappointed. I mean, sure, I wouldn't mind having a full B. Um, Early on, I did grow really used to seeing myself in a C cup, which is what my old breast forms used to be. But just kind of over time, I just kind of grew more used to seeing myself like this, grew more comfortable seeing myself like this. So I mean, don't get me wrong. I am very happy with what I have so far. I mean, would I like would I like a full B? Sure, absolutely. But we have to consider is I'm tall and skinny. Um, how many tall and skinny women do you know have larger breasts? Probably none, or very, very few. So, I mean, all in all, like, I can't really complain. It had I been born a woman with this height and chest size and everything, maybe I would have had a full B. Who knows? But since we're, not a genetic woman, to kind of go a little smaller. So, I mean, I don't know. I'm just kind of rambling, I feel like. But the hips, though, were by and far the most exciting part of my transition. Cause okay, so I've read a lot of stories, and just kind of like, I've read a lot of like, firsthand accounts and kind of looked into sort of the effects on the human body and everything like that, that the hormones would have. And nothing I read suggested that the skeleton would change, that your bone structure would change. And yet that's what happened. It was like 5 or 6 months on hormones. Like there was like a week, like a 4 or 5 day period where my pelvis was just completely sore. I had no idea why. I thought maybe like I was just sitting on my ass too much at work. I wasn't working out or anything. But I didn't really know like why my pelvis was so sore for days. And then one day I got out of the shower and looked at myself in the mirror and, things seem whiter down there. And I know that my like hip measurement, my hip measurement used to be a 36. And so I measured myself that night, and my pelvis, or my hip measurement, was now a 38. And like my hips were like much noticeably wider than they were before. Like this is bone. Like this here, the whitest part is bone. So my pelvis actually opened, which I didn't think was possible. I was not expecting that whatsoever. Like I used to always kind of tell myself, okay, like if I can only pick one, breast enlargement or hip enlargement, which one would I pick? I would pick hip. Hands down, I would pick hip. Because I care a lot. I care much more about my silhouette, about my figure, than my cup size. So, and like I'm pretty, like my shoulders are pretty broad. My chest is kind of broad. My lower half used to be like straight down. There used to be absolutely nothing, because I didn't have anything down here. I needed my hip pads to kind of balance out my upper half. And I always kind of figured that I'm probably, if I couldn't get like hip augmentation surgery, then I would probably just wear my hip pads for the rest of my life. That's kind of what I always figured I would have to do. And then now, just a few months ago, I looked at myself, or like a few months on hormones, like 4 or 5 months on hormones, or 5 or 6, whatever number I said. It's like, no, my pelvis actually opened. Actually, yeah, that's incredible. So with my hip pads, originally pre-hormones, with my hip pads, my hip measurement was a 39. So we went from a 36 to a 39. On hormones, we went from a 36 to a 38. So not quite what my hip pads are, but still just enough to make me insanely happy. Like it's just awesome to. It's like, oh. It's not like a striking hourglass figure. No, I'm not. I largely stay away from unrealistic expectations like that. Like, no, going into my transition, going into hormones, I knew that I have a very male-shaped body. I have a very male face. I wasn't expecting like a miracle. I was expecting to look, well, kind of guyish. Honestly, I still expected to have a very boyish figure, even after I transitioned, but that hasn't really happened. Like, least of all because of the hips, because my pelvis actually opens, because my hips actually widened out. And it's just that alone, that one thing has just made me insanely happy. Like, far more than any other change that I've seen. Like, I'm just so happy that this happened. That, like, hey, I actually have I mean, it's still kind of boyish. Just, I don't know, it's just awesome. Like, this is the one thing I really, really wanted to happen, and honestly didn't think it would, because I didn't think it could, because nothing I read suggested the skeletal structure will change, but my pelvis opened up. I didn't think that could happen! And that was actually really cool. A lot of people have talked about how their faces become rounder. That's something that I honestly have never noticed. Like, I haven't felt as if my face has really changed at all. It has narrowed out a bit, kind of towards the back of the jaw. That is due to, okay, so it's, again, kind of a hormone thing. Testosterone, male hormone, muscle mass increases. You gain muscle mass. This could partly be the estrogen, or it could just be the anti-androgen that I'm taking, which is suppressing my testosterone. But in any case, it results in decreased muscle mass. So I'm actually like losing muscle mass. I'm actually becoming a little more slendery, I guess. And this does include the face. This does include like chewy muscles. So kind of back. So my face used to be very, very square, very blocky. But over time, I did notice that kind of like the back of my face, the back of my jaw. Is it still in focus? God, I hope so. So like, I don't want to get too close because I don't want to mess up the camera. So yeah, my face used to be like insanely blocky and square, but because of like the muscle mass, my muscle mass of the chewy muscles have kind of diminished. So like the rear of my face is actually, it's made like, the back of my face has gone from like this to kind of more like this. It's kind of like just drawn this in. So it has kind of like slendered my face a little bit, at least from the front. With the fat redistribution of the hormones, of the estrogen, you know, like down here is gonna get a little wider. And then the fat also kind of goes up into your face a little bit. That's kind of what makes the face look a little rounder, when really it's just fat. But as far as that goes, like the rounding of my face, that's not something I've really noticed. It could just be because my face has always been a little angular, a little masculine. So maybe if there is any roundness, and maybe if there is any fat redistribution up into my face, it's not really noticeable. I don't know. I can't really say. But I very much have an athletic build. Like, I'm very skinny. Like, this is just, everything you see on me is just bone. This is just bone. Like, there's very, very little fat on me, which, I mean, would kind of explain why these guys haven't grown at all. So maybe that kind of accounts for why, I'm not really getting a rounder face. I'm actually getting a sharper face. The back of my face is actually kind of narrowed in. This is drawing in and making my cheekbones look more protruding than they are. That could very well be it. That could be like the sort of face that we are going to get. Which is still fine with me, because I mean, a feminine face is still a feminine face. What else? Oh, something else that I kind of want to mention, which isn't really, it's not really a hormone thing. I don't know how well this will show off. Again, I don't want to get too close to the camera. So something that, it's not a hormone thing, this is more related to my laser hair reduction, kind of has to do with the upper lip. So women's upper lips has like a very slight kind of up curl. The right here kind of curls up a bit. We never really had that. But now that has more to do with just the mustache, the hair in there just like taking up all that space. So it actually makes your upper lip look a little puffed out. But as we've had our hairs lasered off and hair's been falling out, that hair has actually kind of gone away. So the upper lip, like this whole upper lip mustache area that used to be kind of puffed out has actually kind of retracted back in. And so it in turn has actually given our upper lip, I hope you can actually see this maybe, right here, like the front of our upper lip, just a very, very slight up curl. It's not the most noticeable thing in the world. I don't know if you can even see that. If you can, I'm just going to cut this out. It's not the most noticeable thing in the world. I mean, I don't always notice it, but just the fact that it's there has actually made me kind of happy. But yeah, that's not a hormone thing. That's a laser hair removal thing. But yeah, I don't really know how interesting this is going to be. I'm sure this is just going to come off as like just the to me, it's a bunch of like musings, just letting my thoughts kind of just go and think about things and kind of like do things. To you guys, yeah, I don't know how well this is gonna come out. To you guys, this is probably just a bunch of ramblings and not make a whole lot of sense. I'm trying to make sense. Like my brain is really good at making connections. I just don't always verbalize them all that well. But yeah, no. I thought this was actually just kind of cool. Sort of seeing like the changes that I've gotten so far. Um, um, and honestly, it's just been amazing. Especially, God, like by and far, my hips are still like the one thing I am most excited about when I see myself in the mirror. Most happiest about the changes in my body. I mean, it's still slight. My figure's still kind of boyish, but I'm still like really happy with this. Um, and like breasts, sure. Like I will admit that I did kind of get used to seeing myself with a C cup, which is what my breast forms used to be back during my cross dressing years. But just over time, like I didn't really feel the need to have them that large anymore. Like I'm perfect. Like we're half that size. We're an A and a half, and I'm like perfectly happy with it. For male to female women, don't expect anything large. Don't expect anything enormous as far as breasts go. Which I mean, I one didn't expect, and two didn't want. I don't want large. I just want normal. I just want average. Which I mean, given that we are a 6 foot woman, 6 foot, 155 pounds. Yeah, we're pretty skinny. Like I think we are just perfectly average, and I'm good with that. Hips, I am insanely happy with. Face, I've just grown more and more happy with. I've always said that I wanted a proportional body, something normal, and we're really tall. And like when I see myself in the mirror, like this is a woman's figure. This is a woman's body. And having done away with the wig and makeup, and now we have our face and hair, and like it's it's awesome. Um, it's we're only 9 months in. Like we still have year and a half, 2 years, 3 years before changes finally kind of stop and settle. Um, and that'll like I'm just really excited to know that I still have so much time. Like we've seen this much progress thus far. But I am really hoping that things kind of keep going. Uh, Anyways, I'm sorry. I know I'm probably rambling. I feel like I say this at the end of every video. I'm apologizing for rambling. It's what I do. It's what my brain does. Um, but yeah, I kind of hope you found this interesting. Maybe, hopefully. I don't know. It's Friday. Gotta upload something. Truth be told, I don't really know what I want to talk about anymore. Because I feel like I've covered a lot of the transgender stuff. Oh, there's still a couple of things left. Anyway, sorry, I'm just thinking out loud. Yes. Again, thanks for listening. Thanks for hanging out. I'll hopefully see you guys next week. Bye.